Hi, this is Elena with Frequency. Thank you for joining me again. We are going to be looking at Brooke. This is our second video with her. Um, in this video, I'm going to show you my process, how I do things so I can maximize my time with what I get to run on her, and also target some things that are important that we need to do. She is a little girl that's a 3-year-old who had a traumatic birth, complications. Um, so we do a lot of neuro work, but we also have to navigate a lot of complications with the rest of her body because with neuro it does affect everything else. So particularly right now she's dealing with secretions that are really hard for her to manage. Specifically, she had a lot of drainage coming down yesterday, and so she had a pretty rough night. So we're going to go in and do some support right away. So first off, we're going to start off with going to the scan guy with the bar in front of his face there. We're going to hit that button once. And we always are patient after we hit that button. It needs to think. I have partial screens shared simply due to privacy. Okay, so when I'm over here, I'm going to select the biofield, and then I'm going to select a certain cross section that I want to work on that helps me hit a lot of areas involved with her swallow. So that's going to be right here. I really like working on that cross section, get the larynx, trachea. I actually get some of the thyroid as well. So we're going to go bioinductor Q with the scan guy with the scan bar going across his face. We're doing Q because working off nail sample. There's that biofilled. Anytime I see upside down arrows on that overall look in the body, I know that I'm going to be finding things as I dig in. This is definitely a low energy area for her. That's why we're in there. So when you're working on doing different types of remedies, you're going to be going to advanced analysis. This is where you get your special databases of remedies. It's different from the balancing that we do on the other screen. So we're going to go to advanced analysis. And there's different approaches you can do with this machine that I like. You can I do a lot of medium range and long-term range goals and work on here. But you can do short-term or immediate symptom work as well. And so with her issues, I know her muscles were getting really tired from all the secretions they were managing. So I actually want to go over to organo preparations and do some symptom control with a certain technique that I'll show you. So with symptom control, I'm going to work on organo preparations where it sends a healthy body part signal that she needs. So you can see that the top one here is actually the cervical lymph nodes plus the submandibular lymph nodes, which would make sense because she probably has impaired draining, and we need that to work kind of overtime for her to compensate for the swallow issues. We also have the vagus nerve, which we know how much vagus nerve is involved with saliva, the subconscious actions, whether it's respiratory, swallow, digestion, sweating, things like that. The thyroid gland, I tend to see flared up whenever there's issues in there. I notice it even on my other types of machines. We also have a vocal ligament, um, and other things on here that we're going to go ahead and try, including the larynx and trachea, even though they're at the bottom. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to do a filter called View Digital. It helps bring up any hidden processes that are also priority to pop them into the red. There we go. And then we are going to do is test signal. So in theory, AI has already created this list based upon uh, prioritizing which body parts could use a healthy signal. It's very much like when you have a thyroid issue and you take a supplement that's beef thyroid, desiccated liver or something when you're supplementing for a liver. It's the same kind of principle. We're taking an organ signal, a healthy version, and sending it into the area. So we're going to use this here, these little headphone areas. It's going to be bioinductor Q. Hit OK on the next dialog box. And sometimes we have a little stall out where it might scan and get kind of stuck in that one spot. If that happens, I'll show you how to toggle it so we can get it unstuck, technology. So we had a really good shift with that. We'll do comparisons after I run all these samples really quick. And then I'll show you how to do the comparisons. We're going to go bioinductor Q. We're going to do vagus nerve. And remember, the black squares and the dark diamonds are our two lowest energy markers on here. So when we're getting this color shift, it's showing that we're getting strengthening. We can go ahead and do this carotid artery. Let's do a thyroid gland and just kind of see how we can support these. Oh, great story. She said her first word. She said, Dad, much to the upset of her mom. Ah, I love you, Mama to Brooke. Let's go ahead and do this vocal ligament down here. Let's go ahead. I would like to get, because I don't want to take too long. Let's go ahead and try this larynx and trachea down here. And then maybe I'll do that nerve to the tongue too. See, these I didn't get as much. These because it's at the bottom. I just kind of want to take a look. These ones are at the bottom, so they're actually not as much for priority to send to her. But these ones that we're doing at the top were. So let's just stick to what I had measured out. So to compare, we're going to go to the two persons over to the right. We're going to hit that once. Now, you might want to change your display for this list because we don't have any dates here. So you go to the far corner at the top of that list in order to have it display date and time. That way you're tracking what you're comparing. So because I started off at her primary scan on the other page, that means that the picture on the left is that primary scan. Anything I click on after that is going to be compared on the right-hand side. So for this one here, for instance, this is when I did the cervical lymph and it strengthened by 80%. I go to the next one, and when I did the submandibular lymph, which is super important, right around that jaw area. So it's really great to have that working for secretions. That was a 61% strengthening, 66% with the vagus nerve, carotid artery, 61%, thyroid gland, 60%, vocal ligament, 57%. When I did that larynx signal, it was 19%, which honestly, our goal is 15% or higher. Some big shifts like this, I'm going to see when I have kind of a hyperscan that has a lot of low energy markers everywhere, because it's just kind of like this little black cloud. So you're going to get bigger than average improvement, especially considering all that fluid in there. So we're working with something that we should be able to make some big shifts on. So I like to go through and take a look at the comparisons, especially if it's not very obvious how much benefit that is going when I send that signal. Sometimes it's really obvious, like in these cases, um, we really didn't even need a percentage to know how beneficial it was. When you're looking at not a big shift, it's going to be helpful if you use your minus sign over here. So even if something gets stronger, it will sometimes have areas that react negatively to the remedy that you send. So just because AI has it on the list as something beneficial, it might not be something that the body kind of wants that day. Sometimes our bodies are a little finicky in whether or not they're going to accept something. Um, so doing that minus side sign is nice. Conversely, you can always make yourself feel good and do that plus sign, and then boom, on the right-hand side, everything flashing is what improved, which is everything that was there. So this is how you can kind of confirm your remedies and their value. I go back out. And now that I've confirmed value for these, I'm actually going to send them in a more concentrated form using this spec transfer here that has that remedy cup with the little pill bottle. Or it's actually a remedy cup, like a vial. I'm going to do a spec transfer. So we're going to do a concentrated signal. I'm going to do Q. And I usually go ahead and press the back button preemptively because when it's done, it'll automatically pop back out for me. And this does take some time to send these types of remedies. Now, I don't always do this one by one work, but when I do the one by one remedy work, it's because I'm dealing with some acute symptoms and we're trying to get some relief as fast as possible. And so I stay in close contact with Brooke's mom. So I'm on call for emergencies for when she's having a tough time. Um, it's like we actually legit can get her breathing better or back to sleep, things like that with working on her. And this is a tactic I do for a lot of critical or complicated clients and family. Next, we're going to do the same with the next remedy. So we're going to do bioinductor Q because we're working with a nail sample. We're going to do a back arrow just so that it pops back out for me when it's done. Now you might want to know what the other symbols are for. The stop is for some reason, say for instance, you start running the remedy and you realize you don't want to run that remedy, you just hit stop and then you can hit your back arrow to back out of there. Sometimes I'll hit stop because I realize I didn't put it on Q or I didn't put it on bioinductor 1, things like that for working in person versus off a DNA sample. That arrow, the double arrows that kind of circle each other, that's an invert button. So if I was going to send something negative, like say there's a pathology that popped up on the pathology list, or say for instance there was an infection, so something negative. If it's something negative, you can invert the signal of that negative thing and send it back in to help the body's resistance of it for that negative pattern. So that's when you're going to want to use that invert button. So it's pretty cool. It gives us a wide range of work that we're able to do. So we'll get through these. And then I'm going to show you how to pull BCs, which are, it's a way to broadcast out a signal of the top 6 remedies that AI will process and filter. And it's a little bit different approach. So using the one by one technique, remember this is symptom control, things like that, or moderate future approach. But when you're doing BCs, you're looking at moderate to long range future approach for things that the body needs. So the remedies that come up aren't always the same as what they need today, whereas what they need for long-term improvement. So we are going to go over here, do this one next. Kind of support those areas through there. Everything is worn out. I'm used to her body. I don't like seeing it when things look like this. This is not her normal. You'll learn everybody's normal when you have clients or family you work on. So, let's see, we have what, maybe 3 or 4 more remedies? I can't remember how many I did, so I'll have to look at the list and then we'll pop over. Sorry, this type of work does take time. So you save it for areas that are really, really needing that support. Sorry, I don't have a lot of ramblings in store for you today. I'm a little tired. It's a Sunday. So with Brooke, I'm going to be doing organo preparations in this method, and then I'm also going to be doing homeopathics. I like using homeopathic database for something where I need to like reprogram function. Um, and this machine's really smart in filtering out which ones are needed. All right, actually, this will be the last one that I'll do here. Now, when I'm working with remedies, I'm going to show you a little tiny thing that happens on the screen. Um, you're gonna probably see it on your end if you work on these, or if you're dialing in as one of my people that uses my machine, then you're gonna be seeing um, this one little thing that happens. I'll show you what I do to compensate. Okay, so let me alter the screen display in a minute, but when you are switching from, say, I'm going from organo preparations to homeopathics, then um, you're going to see that this display right here says lung cross-section larynx trachea slash larynx. The last thing I sent was larynx. So I kind of have an altered display. If one of the remedies I had sent was apis-mel, then I'd say the name of the body part, then apis-mel. So I like to pop out and get a fresh sample. So I use the back arrow, but I gotta change my display real quick. I use the back arrow, I pop out, I click again on the scan I was just on, and I pop back into advanced analysis so that my display is right back to baseline again. So I just call it grabbing a fresh sample. So I pop out, I grab a fresh sample whenever I'm going to a new database. So just like always, when I'm on here, I hit view digital. Belladonna, man, it's definitely a huge thing that's needed, especially for the inflammation in there, which makes sense. I'm actually messaging her mama right now because they have belladonna. So they can follow up. And that's what's cool about what we do. We actually get a lot of ideas off the AI analysis of what can be done at home. So we're going to do just a couple samples here. As a matter of fact, I think she has a good bit of these top ones because they're pretty common for Brooke to need them. So I'm going to go and just do a test run on the top 4. I'm not going to do comparisons because it's so obvious. So back to the bioinductor headset here, click OK on your dialog box. Matter of fact, I know she has 2,3-M and Ava smell. So I'm gonna actually tell her those two. All right, now we're gonna go to Ava smell. Oops, I'm doing a test run so you guys can see those before I run the bigger signals. Now we're gonna go and we're gonna go set the bigger signals here. Those four. And now if you don't have the description displayed on here, or if the description doesn't look complete for the homeopathy list, then go Google. You can pull up the Materia Medica for it or some sort of write-up. Homeopathy, even when there is a description, there might be a broader description online. It actually usually has quite a lot of work that it does on different body parts. So when you have someone that's a homeopathy practitioner, they actually have extensive training and schooling that they do, like long time, because you are looking at they're looking at clients and trying to find the best match out of all of these remedies that most closely aligns to the client, because that's going to more uh, help correct better what's going on. It's very important when working with homeopathy that you're matching your remedies correctly. You can create a response that you don't want by using incorrect remedies. So it is important to be able to know which are going to be compatible with the symptom. I like that I have the cheat with using technology that has AI so that it's able to bounce those signals off and confirm that for me already. And then we can do our double checking, even like we did at the beginning here. Um, when you see patterns with homeopathy too in different body parts, it's pretty cool because you realize how much things are connected. So I can have something that I'm using here that's going to work on her aortic tissue, that's going to work on her brain blood barrier, that's going to work on her muscle pain. So it's really nice when you see things that have like a big duality in the type of roles that it can play for a body. And that's when it's something that should go on a homework list for a client to research on providing the physical form of it in addition to the biofeedback form that we send. All right, send this bigger signal for the belladonna as well. You could see on that list of remedies with belladonna being at the top with the smallest number next to it, that means it's biggest relevance. And there's actually a significant amount of difference between belladonna and the next remedy. That's how badly her body wants belladonna right now. And remember, we're talking belladonna homeopathy, not belladonna herbs. Some homeopathy in an herbal form is actually a poison or a venom. Um, but when you're working with homeopathy, it's almost like I kind of compare it to doing immunotherapy when you're sending a signal of the virus to a body to be able to reprogram that body and how it responds to the virus. It's it's like for homeopathy. So you send something that matches with the symptoms of what it could do even in the physical form to reprogram uh, those types of symptoms. I know it's weird, but so when I'm talking belladonna, when I was talking the teucrium, the croton tiglium, the apismel, all of those are the homeopathy, the databases. All right. Next, I'm going to actually take a look at my screen. I do want to see if I have any aloe or anything, but I go grab a fresh sample. Going that, grab advanced analysis. Go to Phyto, see if I have anything really healing. Madonna's for analysis at the top. It's great for allergies and things. It's more accessible in Europe rather than here. That's another thing that's pretty cool. So if I'm doing phytotherapy or stones, you're going to do 3D meta. It's not the same as doing the bioinductor headphones or the other signal up here. It goes out a little bit different. So I'm going to do 3D meta. What I like is I have databases from all over the world. So even if we can't get something here, we can get it in a biofeedback form, whether it's medications, homeopathy, herbs, things that you just don't naturally stock. So it's going through, it's doing 3 swipes through as I instructed and progressively doing improvements on the 3 swipes. And you can see the difference. I had Meta Plus next to that in stone, which is why you do that 3D Meta button versus the other techniques that I use. You could still do the other techniques, but 3D Meta tends to be a really effective way of sending the signals for those that have those markers. All right, so I'm going to minimize this back down. So we're going to pop back in, we're going to grab BCs. So I don't know if you've noticed, but when I went in, first off, I only scanned a couple essentials where I knew we had deep work to do. And then went back in. I'll be going back in later to do the full scan. All right. I'm going to teach you how to pull BCs. So I'm going to go to organo preparations. I'm going to go to Meta BC. I'm going to go analyze. And if you want to leave it thinking, you can always click to the back screen, let that keep thinking and move on. It depends how fast and efficient you're trying to work. I'm going to go to allopathy because there is some allergy and immunomodulating stuff over there. That's probably going to help that process going on with your throat. So I'm going to go to Meta BC there too. This is where I can literally give her an antihistamine in a biofeedback form, where it's not something that maybe we'd want to do in a physical form, but I can apply it and help her breathe better for the moment. So we're going to go analyze our allopathy, and I'm going to click back off. I also want to get homeopathy. Now, these lists that are getting populated for the BC broadcasts, they are going to prioritize differently than our lists that we worked with here. Because remember, these lists I used to tamp down more immediate inflammation. The broadcasts are going to be providing lists that are long-term goals. So it's going to prioritize differently. I'm going to go phytotherapy, stone therapy, and I also actually for throat swelling, I like to go down to Regina therapy, which is a homeopathy. I believe it's European based. Because there's some swelling and things like see the edema, immune system, lymph, sinusitis. There's something inflammation. There's things in there that I would like it to consider when it's building its remedies. I'm going to hit Meta BC for that group of 3. So yes, you can choose multiple categories and it's going to prioritize the top 6 out of those multiple categories versus one category. I'm going to hit analyze there. Now I'm going to go and take a look. So you'll see I have a bunch of BCs down here. These are from people I was running earlier today that I'm still running stuff in the background even after the session's over. So Brookie's here. She's this one that's kind of highlighted because it's a fresh scan and it says analyze complete. You hit OK, you hit grounding, you hit measure, and it takes a second for measure to kick in. You might need to click again on that if it doesn't. While that's loading up its analysis, I go to my next one and I'm going to hit OK, grounding, measure. Let's see if measure kicks in. There we go. And then let's go do some explanations over here, okay? So this first one, it prioritized the lowest and the highest. So the lowest three and the highest three. And it's rating in terms of low functions for body areas or high functions for body areas. So you have the name of the item, and that name would correlate with the list prior. Level would be about those like plexus or chakra points throughout the body where you have different connections of organs going through. The level value would be like different types of more body areas, meridian lines, things like that. And then the potency, that's a homeopathy potency. Um, and so it's adjusting the potencies because potencies have different effect. Like for instance, you have certain potencies for homeopathy that can even change the genetic expression of cancer. So there's cool studies on that. Um, and then their general value, the GV over here, that is also the actual how it decides what's low and high. You can click on the column that says actions broadcast. I usually click it twice. So everything that it's going to send for support is in that top area. So the areas that it chose was the nerve, the right there, laryngeal nerve, the tracheal lymph node, the thyroid gland, the retropharyngeal lymph node, bronchial artery, and the vena cava. So those are the areas, and sorry for butchering the names of things. Those are the areas that it's targeting for sending a healthy organ into that. So you can see that this is different from some of the things that we targeted on the front end. So this is a long-term goal here. So I click behind it to get back to the screen behind it. And let's go take a look at our other set of remedies that were loaded up. These were the medication remedies. So I'm going to hit broadcast. I'm going to filter it so we can see which ones okay. So the top 6 was immunomodulating. I'd have to look up Lebexin, and I could only guess on the third one. So you have what country and where they're from. So you would be able to Google any of these. And usually you can find an equivalent in your country, well, sometimes. But taking a look at what remedies coming up as a priority also gives you a look into the window of what they need on this as well. So it could be interesting. Let's see. So that is it for this screen. I'm going to close this down for the privacy level. And then I'm going to show you one more thing. So when we go back to, oh, you know what? Actually, before we go back, I need to go to biofield. This is the other thing I always do at the beginning. Let's do a filter. We're going to do biofield filter for 1026 for today. I always pull the biofield right at the beginning along with whatever I broadcast. Those are the two things, two types of scans that I'll work with from the very beginning. That way I can start broadcasting immediately before the scan time and the zap time starts taking place. I have those broadcasts in the back end. Okay, so I'm going to go to this biofield also at the beginning because we need to pull microorganisms, and sometimes you can get a glitch in the system if you are clicking off and on the microorganisms database. It can give you an error saying, oh, you already scanned these, and it's just because you looked at them. So it can get irritating. So in order to avoid any errors later, because I'm not paying attention, I grab them right away before we do our big scan. So I go view digital, adenovirus, rhinovirus are some of the top for her. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to go down to Entamoeba histolytica because that does have have an effect on body pain, and I know that she does deal with a lot of body pain. And then I'm going to go to microscan. And give it a minute. The more remedies or the more microorganisms you select, the longer it takes before it loads those microorganisms on the scan screen. All right. So now you'll see that I have biofilled female and then all these organisms underneath it. So here is where I start doing some shortcut keys. So I do my drop down list. I go load a save preset. For Brooke, we are working on the immunological 187 scans. I get those scans selected. And this is so that I can, have some moments where I can take care of other things on this machine. Like for instance, back here, we have these BCs. I get all the scans going while it's scanning. I make sure I police my BCs on the back end and keep those continually running. My machine literally works like 24 hours a day. Not even kidding. So when I selected all those scans, I'm going to show you something. So that scan preset was 187 items. But take a look here. When it selected it, it says it's 201 items that were selected. I'm going to show you why when we scroll down. Now I'm going to increase this number temporarily by adding in. So I'm going to drag and highlight my organisms. If you want to be selective, you're not going to do Streptococcus lactis, because that's a beneficial, but I'm going to hit my control button and click the Streptococcus viridans and the Enterobius vermicularis. And with those selected, that way I can hit check selected. That way you're not doing individual checkoffs. Save yourself some time. Do your shortcuts. Down here, I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to do Lactobacillus acidophilus, but I'm going to go from here down to the adenovirus. I'm going to highlight that and I'm going to hit check selected. All right. Now here we see that cross section we started off with at the beginning. But look at all these that we see down below. That's because this is all those little extra signals that we sent of remedies. It was saving it. And you don't actually want these to be part of this process. It can clog up the system and sometimes it can get kind of stuck on these little signals that are sitting here. So I go through, that's why we had an inflated number at the beginning. There was all these that shouldn't be selected. So I go uncheck selected in that case. Now, you can avoid this by doing all of your BCs, your microorganisms, and all your main scans at the beginning. And then you do your detailed work for a one-by-one application of a remedy, and you leave that for the end so that these won't even appear yet because you wouldn't have done it yet. So that's up to you. Sometimes when you leave it at the end, it might be more likely to freeze though when it's running those signals. So you might have to toggle your vector. I'll show you what you do. You go down to your vector icon down here. You right click and you hit close window a few times if you do have it freeze when it's scanning some of those, and it kind of tends to shake it up so it gets unfrozen. Sorry, we don't have that error today for me to show you. All right, so it has 207 items selected out of 1,052. There's 205 items left to scan. So remember, we already did two things, biofilled and that cross section of the throat. So that's why we have 205 things left to do. And then you go over to here to your scan guide with a scan bar, and now we're going to have it run through all those scans. And that's all I'm going to show you on this video today. All right. Thank you very much.